Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. Got some football coming up for you. We're going to get to Brandon Doman talking BYU football and JB Long talking Puka Nacua and the Los Angeles Rams. That's coming up in this hour. But right now, David Locke with PK talking about the changing nature of Major League Baseball and college sports. Here they are on The Zone.
You know him. You love him. He is David Locke, Mr. Jazz radio broadcaster. How the heck are you?
I'm good. Great to talk with David. James takes vacation. I didn't know this. After 17 years of knowing him, I'm not sure this has ever happened before.
You know, I wouldn't call it a vacation. It's a personal thing that he has to do involving family, but it's not really a vacation.
Oh, well, I guess things have never changed then. All right. I thought the hardest working guy never stops.
Well,
might have actually turned a page.
Yeah, and I was supposed to be off today, but I rearranged it and came back early. I went on a baseball trip.
Oh, what'd you do?
My wife wanted to see Niagara Falls, so we did that. And
pretty great, actually. Did you go Canadian side or U.S. side?
Both, but we stayed in the Canadian side.
Okay, way better. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's a night and day difference.
Yeah.
And shooting fireworks over the falls at 10 o'clock. And I had no idea on the Canadian side that it was a big vacation spot. And I mean, with rides and amusement, the kids all over the place and people. So since we were there, we did the boat ride, and they say you're going to get wet. What they should say is you're going to get more wet than taking a shower.
Yes. Did you get the poncho over the top of you or not?
Oh, of course.
It doesn't really matter, though.
It doesn't. No. I mean, you are soaked. It took 2 days for the clothes to dry out. I mean, to say you're going to get wet is a massive understatement.
Yes, that is accurate.
You will get drenched, and you'll laugh because it's nothing like anything you've ever done. And,
and you'll wish you had different shoes for the rest of the day.
Precisely. And I wish somebody would have told me, because I only brought 2 pair of shoes, and one, we were going to the Jersey Shore, and they were just basically flip-flops. They're glorified flip-flops. So we kind of had to do that for a couple of days and keep the shoes in the sun and all that stuff. And then since we were close enough, we went up to Toronto, so I saw the Blue Jays play.
Oh, cool.
And then went back.
I went to Skydome, which is now Rogers, when it was brand new in 1990. I think it opened in 89.
It opened in 89. I looked it up, yeah.
And so I went and saw it in 1990 at the time, which was such a revolutionary concept. And that's when people were having sex in that hotel room, and you could see it. And it was like they had forgotten about that concept, that people might be voyeurs. And that's where Jose Canseco would hit that huge home run. But yeah, it was such a revolutionary, with a retractable roof, and the technology was crazy. It's probably outdated, and it's probably soon to be discussed as something at a stadium that needs to be replaced, I would guess.
As old as it is there, yeah. But I mean, it's in a great location right there in the heart of downtown.
Toronto's my favorite city we travel to.
Yeah, we explored.
Yeah, I thought Toronto was truly amazing. I wish I'd known there's a sandwich shop in Toronto that's just crazy, small, no tables. You walk in, you grab your sandwich, and you're what do I do with this? There's maybe 2 table seats, 4. And it's just amazing. But no, Toronto's unquestionably my favorite city.
The traffic was pretty nasty virtually at all times.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, well, I mean, it's the 5th biggest city in North America. Or, yeah, fourth.
I thought I heard him say 3rd.
Oh, interesting. Mexico City, New York, Toronto?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, there was traffic everywhere, but I mean, the game started at 7. We got downtown at 10, and just parked the car, so we had plenty of time.
That's pretty great. That's cool. And what else did you see? Anything else?
Then we went to Citi Field to see the Mets, and then over to Philadelphia to see the Phillies.
In 1990, I drove across country, and I saw a game in every stadium.
Oh, that's our goal. We only have 4 more to go.
And so it's so funny, though. So there's only 26 at the time. It's a little bit of a trick to get it done, because there's actually, I don't know if it's still true, but at the time there were a bunch of weird things where the Rangers and Astros are never home at the same time, and the Angels and Dodgers are never home, the Cubs, White Sox. So there are a bunch of spots where you actually have to hit them. If you're going to get the trip done with any efficiency all in one summer, you had to hit, Texas or Dallas and then be able to get to Houston the next day, or catch Texas on the last day of a homestand and then get to Houston. We did it, but also it's funny. I mean, obviously 1990 is a long, long time ago now, but and Camden Yards was brand new, New Comiskey was brand new, and Skydome. Those were the three, and obviously Wrigley and Fenway were the old dogs. Now, I haven't seen any of these stadiums, right? Like, not only did Coors Field not exist, and not only did the Florida Marlins not exist, which made the trip possible, or the Miami Marlins, excuse me, which made the trip possible because you didn't have to go down that far south. And actually, frankly, not having to dive back into Colorado made it, because I was doing it out of San Francisco at the time. So not having those two spots was very helpful. But none of the stadiums are the same. Like, none of them. Go to Metrodome and Minneapolis is gone, and every single one of them. Three Rivers Park is gone,
Detroit.
Thank goodness, and Riverfront is gone, thank God. Those two were just such cookie cutter
Same thing in
abominations.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Cincinnati.
So anyway, just kind of interesting. I mean, obviously that's a lot. It actually happened really fast, because Camden Yards was so beautiful that the stadium revolution happened in the late '90s to early 2000s. So it was really interesting how fast all of them went away. Now that it's 30, what are we, 2025? So 36 years ago or 35 years ago they did that. It's not as surprising that these stadiums are gone.
And a lot of times change is not viewed as positive, but this was change for the better.
Right.
Because these ballparks now are way more charming. And that's one of baseball's things, is charming, is that you have to have that.
I wish that sometimes that baseball would dive more into the uniqueness of every field, right? Because I think with the modern era of all the data that they have now, it's like somewhat interesting that someone hit a 402-foot home run, but it's way more interesting when someone hits a 372-foot home run, and they're like, that would only be a home run in 5 of the 30 ballparks. You're like, oh, that's really cool. That's unique. Or somebody flies out, in a 4-2 game with 2 runners on, somebody flies out and the stat pops up like, oh, that would have been a home run in 21 of the other 30 buildings. Like, oh, well, then that's a really, then the makeup of the stadium had a big impact on the game.
I like it. That's a good idea. It is, and it does. Yeah, sure. So that's the one thing that you can get in that sport that the other ones are sort of uniform in that way in football and basketball, obviously.
And the game's watchable again, so you can now be a fan of it.
Yes, and I was there on Monday, and the game was decided in the bottom of the 10th on a catcher's interference. First time since 1971.
We have a new show. I'm going to plug it because I think it's really cool. If you're a baseball fan, we have a new show called Locked on MLB Game Night. And what it is we have a host for every team, right? So they record a 1-minute piece after every game, and then we just kind of our hosts bounce from one report to the next. And so you get a recap of the entire night of MLB, and we were instead of just covering New York, Boston, and LA, we cover every team. And so I think it's cool. So that's why I mentioned it. It's called Locked on MLB Game Night. And I listen to it almost every day as my way of catching up with what's going on with baseball. And the other day they were talking about catcher's interference, and I didn't realize this is all because of the computers. That the catchers are now trying to get closer to frame it differently because of the computers and the computer balls and strikes. And that's why we have more catcher's interference.
I didn't know that either, but it makes sense.
Right. Super interesting. But so tip of the hat to thus the free plug for our show. But that is, at least I'm not stealing information and acting like it's mine.
Cool. Okay.
You would like that show, by the way.
I will check it out.
Yeah.
I check out your stuff. Do you want to talk jazz or you want to talk the state of college sports?
I think the state of college sports is pretty fascinating. I have a podcast on the Jazz. If someone's that much of a diehard that they want it right now, I'll be recording it when we're done. We can do that. How's that? Here's what I think. I was talking to I was just talking to Jeff Thurman, is his name. He's the head of Utah Golf Association, and Stoddard is the head coach at Oklahoma State.
Annie Thurman.
Yeah, you got it. So my take on this is I'm pro portal. Because, I remember Rick McJair's calling Jordy McTavish into the room and telling him that all of his teammates hate him and he has to go, right? It wasn't true. So the coaches were evil.
Idaho State.
Right. And I'm pro players getting paid because clearly there was a lot of money out there that was worth it for people to pay their players, right?
No question.
And so And the people that are against the portal and against the players getting paid, my only comment to that is you just didn't really understand what was going on before.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. I've been saying that for years. I don't know that there's many people who are against that, though. They want maybe some regulations as opposed to being against it and not even having it existing.
100%. What it's doing to college sports and what the impact of two things I like are, I'm not so certain about, is the way I would phrase it. Like, I'm pro-portal, I'm pro-nil. I think these are good things. I just don't know what it means anymore, and I don't know what it means for fans. I know on a personal note, the conference realignment has destroyed my fandom because I think I was as much a fan of Stanford at this point because my dad and I went to games together, and every Saturday let us kind of talk and probably have the same conversation every year, which was like, oh, do you remember UCLA when John Neighbor hit the field goal to beat the Bruins in 19, or when Vinny White did such and such, and there was just a history to it.
Yep.
And now when Stanford plays Wake Forest, I just don't give a crap at all. In fact, I didn't watch one game all year. I couldn't tell you their schedule, and I couldn't probably tell you a player's name on their team anymore.
Okay, but how much is that they've gone through a little bit of a lull if they were 12-0, 11-1?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're 12-0 or 11-1, you might be, if you're that extreme, right? It's pretty hard to not be interested in the top 10 team. But let's just be more realistic. If they were 8-4, I don't think I would care. I really don't think I would care if they were 8-4. But I also don't live there either. I mean, we've always the truth is, in all of these sports, that all we're doing is being a member of a tribe and rooting for cloth. That's just the truth of the matter. It's fine, right? We get identity by being a part of a group, which is great. This is we need this in society. This is a positive. And you can wear your hat of your team, and you wear your shirt, and then when I say you're rooting for cloth, it doesn't really matter if the players change, you still root for your team. It hurts, but you still root for your team. And
you get over it.
Yeah, and Penn State's proven we actually don't care what you morally do with your team because we'll still root for our team and have no repercussions if, you're doing the most heinous things ever and decide, yeah, that's fine, we'll keep your statue up because it's part of a tribe. That's what tribes do. And I was a little deep, but what I think also is there was a little bit of college sports, and I didn't have this because I didn't go to Stanford, where you would wear your sweatshirt of your alma mater and go to the game, and you're rooting for kids that, in theory, were kind of doing the same thing you did by going to that school. That part is now gone. Right? There's nothing similar about the running back making $3 million to you as the college student going to school. So that part is going to be gone. I don't know what the long-term impact of this is. It's just fascinating, though.
Yeah, but wasn't that running back already making money? We just didn't talk about it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, maybe not $3 million.
Not as much, granted.
Right. I mean, the one that's really interesting here when you try to find solutions is, okay, well, make these guys, I've heard a lot of people talk about this, make people sign a 2 or 3 year contract. Well, then they're employees. And then the impact of that, whether you care or not, is that there's no women's sports and there's no men's sports that aren't revenue generators anymore.
That's where I was going to get with that. I mean, you have a college athlete yourself and your family, and nobody
right.
I would think nobody wants to see sports eliminated, whether you're a fan of that particular sport or not. If you're a sports fan, you understand the value, particularly of young women who are bruised and battered in our world because they may not look like Sydney Sweeney or whomever it is, the latest hottie toddy of the day, and they're supposed to have that. And if they don't, they feel less of a person, and it is a tragedy. And sports is a way for them to develop and all that other stuff. So I don't think anybody wants to see that go away. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I think some people don't care, which is unfortunate. It is interesting, though. I've watched sometimes. I mean, it's interesting, when you say, well, Title IX goes, well, I don't like Title IX. Okay, well, your men's soccer team is gone. Oh, wait, what? The men's soccer team's gone?
And I don't like that either.
Right. It's not Title IX that's gone. It's all non-Olympics. It's non-revenue sports are gone because there's nothing. And I do think that part of a university is to have these opportunities the same way they have a theater and an art department and kids are getting music scholarships and theater scholarships.
Agreed.
I mean, the other one I would say, just this is a side note that has always frustrated me, is I really wish kids could major in their sport. It's really what they're doing anyway. Trust me, I'm not in love with that concept, but it's going on. And if that's what you're doing, which is what truthfully most college kids are doing that are playing Division I sports, then take a finance class, take a nutrition class, take a coaching class, take an exercise science class, take a, make it real, but major in football. But football that involves all aspects of football, so that when you're done playing football or basketball or whatever your sport is, and you want to stay in it in some capacity, you then have a book of skills, because we let you major in theater and we let you major in dance and we let you major in music. And those are not just because they're elitist and somehow prestigious and allow you to be a snob doesn't actually mean that they have much less revenue opportunity in the long run than any of these sports, being a coach or being something in the sport or working for, like a golfer comes out with some skills and goes and works for Callaway. They can make a whole hell of a lot of money selling club, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. Whereas the music coach is really not going to make any money. So I don't really understand why. I would like us to the next step is to dive all in. Let these kids go to college, have them be college students, but let them major in their sports. And if they're going to be making $3 million, let's go ahead and give them a finance class while we're at it.
Yeah, but I think they can take one.
They can, but if it's hard, they can't. Then they're told not to.
Well, that's a fact. We've had athletes come on the air and tell us that, and I know what you're saying without saying it.
I mean, I'm not going to hide it. I have a Division I golfer. She's literally told what classes are available to her or not.
Right, because they can't get in the way of the team. That's why we're paying you to come here.
Right, 100%. She's not bringing in it. Come on, what's the joke? So they can finish last in the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, things may change now based on what's happened here recently.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting, but I think your first point of the really interesting debate here is, okay, what is the purpose of collegiate sports and its societal impact on young adults? Okay, is that because that's where we started, and that's why we have college sports in theory, I would think.
Yes.
And then, so that's to your point that yes, you're preaching to the choir. That sports has given my daughter a feeling of worth and self-worth in a tough world for kids right now.
Yeah.
And and giving her the opportunity to have a week she'll never forget, like this one. And so then it's been great. But, so to me, that's what I would like to believe collegiate sports is. If we're just going to turn it into minor leagues, and that's what it is, so that fans can root for things and schools can brand themselves, then it's something else. And I don't know where we're heading. It's really, it's a great question. What is the purpose of this? Why? What are we doing? Is it just to fill a stadium and make money? That's really disappointing if that's where we are, but it might be where we are.
Understood. Where we are is we got to go. We've enjoyed your conversation this morning. I appreciate you getting up and talking with us.
Kyle Filipowski, Summer League MVP. Way to go, Flip.
Yeah, we can get to that the next time because that was going to be my topic. And what do we have there in that young man as a player, and we will get to that at another time. But thank you for your time.
Have a good weekend. Hope you get to hit him straight somewhere.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, talk to you soon.
There's David Locke for the entire interview. Go to our website or wherever you get podcasts. When we come back, Brandon Doman is talking Cougar quarterbacks. Stay with us. DJ PK, it's time to welcome in Brandon Doman, former BYU quarterback, former BYU offensive coordinator. Brandon, good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. How are you?
We are doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I think you guys have been doing this for 40 years now. You guys have been doing this. That's pretty good. It's awesome. Come on.
Let's see. We are in year. Hold on. I can do the math here. We've done 23 years. We're in our 24th.
Well, you said it seems like.
I'm just saying. You guys kick butt. You're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. You were one of the first names across our lips because camp's going to open here, and there's 3 quarterbacks vying for a job, and practice isn't real because they don't let quarterbacks get hit, and nonetheless, they have to figure out who the best quarterback is. And it's just such a flawed system, Brandon. And I was thinking, I actually went back and looked it up because BYU's website, they've got some awesome stuff on there. Lavelle has a quote after the CSU game when you get to come in at quarterback at halftime and you haven't been playing and the team hasn't been scoring points. They'd only scored 20 points a game one time in the last 5 games. And you come in and it's 38-0. And you score 3 touchdowns. And a game story, it says short fields, block punts. I didn't remember any of that. You scored 30 points or more and won the next 2 games. And you started the next year 12-0 and you scored 30 points in 10 of those games. And Lavelle says at CSU, he says, something's wrong and I can't figure it out. And the answer is literally you standing next to him on the sideline as the next 14 games are going to prove. And he can't figure it out. And I'm thinking, that's because quarterbacks don't get hit in practice. And he didn't know how elusive you were and what a playmaker you were because you couldn't really show it because practice isn't real. And now at BYU and at other schools around the country, they're going to run out there practice and try to figure out who the best quarterback is. And I'm thinking, it's a flawed system. You played. You're an offense coordinator. Do you have any answers? Is there anything that could be done better to make sure you get the right quarterback? Because you're a great example of this system's flawed.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's so hard because you get into a practice setting. It's scripted. You're doing routes on air. You're throwing one-on-ones. You're constantly comparing who's got the best arm strength, who can throw the best ball, and it's almost impossible to simulate game-like scenarios. Not just game-like scenarios, but 65,000 fans in the stands, all the pressures leading up to the game, the experience during the game, and some guys just play better on game day. Some guys get into the stadium and their blood flows differently and they compete differently. The teammates respond differently to them. And so it is uniquely challenging to find a guy. So you're constantly looking for ways as a coach, both in the off season, during the spring and obviously during fall camp, how can we best assimilate that environment in every way possible. And I remember as a coach trying to figure out how do we put these guys into real life game-like situations where we're moving the ball, we're getting into, where they have to truly move the chains, first, second, third down, fourth down stuff. Can they create drives? Can we put them on the 25-yard line and make them drive the ball? Can we put them in, scenarios where there's enough mounted pressure where they can respond appropriately, and then it's really hard in practice to know how these teammates can respond. So you get a feel throughout the off season and in the fall camp. Most of the leaders on the team begin to gravitate to a particular guy, and you hope they're not gravitating to the most popular guy, rather than gravitating to the guy that they believe is going to help them win. And you just have to pay very close attention to all those details.
I like what you would do with Max Hall in the team sessions. If a guy, because the quarterback's off limits, he got within 5 yards, you'd blow as a sack, blow the whistle, and Max would yell at you, and you'd yell back, and that was always entertaining to see that. You try to frustrate him because during game action things don't go the way you want it, and you're going to have to overcome frustration. As far as from an offensive coordinator perspective, how do you go into tailoring the practices to make sure everybody has an equal opportunity, certainly in the beginning, and then work your way towards, as August rolls on, of narrowing it down?
Yeah, you can't wait long. They're going to have to make a decision soon. One of the things Bronco did years ago, and I think most programs probably don't do this anymore just based on injury, but we would get to a Thursday night, and we'd call it Thursday Night Lights, and we would let our underclassmen play. We'd turn on the music and play a game, and quarterbacks were live, and it gave us an opportunity to find out, one, that Max Hall was legit and that he was a fierce competitor, and he captured the heart of the entire team during those Thursday nights when he was redshirting or ineligible to play that year. So have they done their homework up to this point? Do they really know what McKay Hillstead can do? Do they really know I say McKay Hillstead because they've had him now for a long period of time, and he seems to be the front runner in my opinion. Have they had enough time to see this kid compete in enough settings to where they know how the team's going to respond to him? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. If they've seen him in enough live bullet scenarios, and for the quarterbacks going into fall camp, the only way I can see them being able to do that is as quickly as they can early on, giving enough first team reps over that first week. Each of these guys, fair amount of reps, but quickly they're going to have to pick a guy and just dump the reps into him because they just don't have enough time.
When we do interviews, I've stood next to Bronson Kafusi and to Star Lotulelei and Luther Ellis, and I feel like a very small person. And you know how tall I am because I've stood next to you doing interviews, right? Now I'm going to stand next to McKay Hillstead, and I'm going to stand next to Devin Dampier, and I'm going to tower over them. Is that a good thing for Ute and Cougar fans, or should they worry about the diminutive stature of their respective potential quarterbacks here?
Well, it's a challenge. Yeah, I mean, they have a disadvantage without question. Even 2 to 3, 4 more inches, so you get to 6'2", and I'm 6'2". I walked into the NFL and I felt like a shrimp. Mm-hmm. I just felt like a little man, and so being 5'10", 5'11", you certainly are at a disadvantage. So offensively, the scheme has to change. You have to create spaces in the run game and what you call the run, the RPO system, run pass option system, running zone read stuff, creating pocket movement, so that you can create space for the quarterback to see it. And there have been a lot of quarterbacks that can play this game that are 5'11", that can see the field, that can throw the ball well. But the system has to allow for it, and you do that through the scheme. And I think Aaron Roderick understands the scheme. I actually think the scheme is very good for a guy like McKay that's a little undersized. He has all the skill in the world to be able to do it. He's just undersized, and I think Utes and Cougars are hoping that that these offensive coordinators can create enough spread and enough scheme to enable these guys to do well. And as much as it is on the quarterback, it is on the offensive play caller and the scheme.
Over the years, we've talked to a lot of different quarterbacks as they headed off into the real world. One of the guys that we've had on many times over is Robbie Bosco, and he likes to say in a laughing manner that when he got on campus as a freshman, it never entered his mind that he would anywhere near taking a snap in a game for 2 years. And they felt like, and we know during that time, that's what they had. And that quarterback factory, as guys sat, learned, and then it was their time. They go on and flourish. Now you got this kid, Bear Bachmeier, who, in a crazy world that we live in now, participated in Stanford's spring ball, and here he is at BYU just a few weeks later. Do you see any way that he could be prepared enough, given such limited time, to be able to be the starter this year?
Yes, I do think he could be the starter this year, but he won't be the starter at the beginning of the season. He just hasn't had enough time to be in the scheme and develop the camaraderie, and they don't need to play him at the beginning of the season. They've got again, I keep saying McKay, but I think they got enough of a talent there, a guy that I think the team has had enough reps with and surrounded by to go in there and give him the opportunity to play. If by chance he's not playing well and is having a hard time, then you need to make a decision for the next 2 or 3 years. And it seems to me that you would begin dumping all of that time into Bear. And he does have significant upside, but he's just limited in the amount of time he's had. And Stanford was down, and so therefore he was in the mix immediately as a potential starter for them. And all of a sudden here he is again. But I think it would best serve BYU and Bear to give this guy an opportunity to get down the road a couple months.
Former BYU quarterback, former BYU offensive coordinator Brandon Doman joining us. Do you think that high school coaching and high school offenses has improved so much that you really can't compare freshmen now to freshmen from 10, 20, 30 years ago? All the 7-on-7 drills. And I've even heard video games have taught 12-year-old stuff about football that you didn't used to learn until you were 19 or 20. Is it just completely different now for someone learning to play quarterback?
No doubt. The training is so good. Skill development training. You've got guys that are, the likes of John Beck and others that have accelerated quarterback training. We have local trainers, Dustin Smith and others here locally that provide these kids off-season training that dads can find a million reps for their kids. And you're right, high school coaching has improved significantly. Schemes are better. Quarterbacks are getting more and more whacks at seeing real life, passing game offense and schemes and understanding the game of football better. Light years different. And that's why oftentimes you'll see some of these rookies get into the NFL and can be successful pretty quick because of the amount of reps they've had. Some of these guys have had 3 years of college reps, 3 years of high school reps, and they've played a ton of football by the time they get there. And I just didn't have – I had played a lot of football. When I had gotten to that age, I just hadn't seen enough of what I was going to see at BYU, so I was behind the eight ball, and I think these guys are way more ready.
One of your great accomplishments, and certainly I don't think it received the attention that it deserved as a coach at BYU, was dealing with the psyche of players. I mean, you basically had to take it down in the dumps, John Beck, and build him back up to the player that he was, and he goes on and just has an incredible senior season. And when you got him, he was just psychologically not in a good spot. And then you had to do the same thing a little while later with Jake Heaps and all that. So for Aaron Roderick and Kalani and the other offensive coaches, how important do you think it is to be able to keep these guys at basically just have the confidence level, because you're going to be in this battle and everybody wants to start, and it's almost going to be like series to series, if not play to play. It could be a fickle thing.
LaVell Edwards was so good at creating a culture for quarterbacks, and it didn't matter who the guy was. If he picked a quarterback, the culture surrounding that quarterback enabled him to become a confident person, a confident player, and in so many ways the leader of the football team. And as goes the quarterback, so goes the team. And so you have to develop a plan, a practice plan, a locker room culture, a team culture around this quarterback that enables him to truly become the guy that you want him to. And your team leaders have to understand that culture, and your coaches have to understand that culture. You can't have multiple coaches talking to the quarterback during practice. I mean, there's so many different little nuances to develop the mindset of a quarterback. And I was fortunate enough to be raised in that environment at BYU. And then I went off into the NFL, and I was in the same environment with Steve Mariucci, and Bill Walsh was there as a consultant. And those guys all had the same mindset. It was a kind of a Mike Holmgren-esque mindset. And those guys, Andy Reid is now the leader of, in my opinion, of all quarterback cultural training. He's the best in the world at it right now. And it all stems from the same environment. And you have to create a mindset and an environment and a culture for that guy to be successful. And if you can do that, and you got the right quarterback, you can have great quarterbacks back to back to back, because it becomes inbred in the culture. As long as you're recruiting right, and BYU did for so many years. If you recruit right and you coach the culture right, it truly can be a quarterback factory, and that's why some people figure it out, and it just keeps happening time and time again.
You mentioned only one voice. That wasn't an accident. You just didn't throw that out there. Is that why quarterback coaches went away? Because I always thought that what PK was talking about with you and John Beck, I thought in the 90s, Robbie Bosco did a good job of that. I heard some specific stories about guys who were on the verge of melting down during games. And Robbie could say stuff to him because he played this. But then you also have the OC talking to him. So is that one of the reasons QB coaches went away?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. Brett Favre shows up at the Green Bay Packers. He's a brand new quarterback. He's a young, budding superstar, and they know it. And so Mike Holmgren, in one of the very first staff meetings, he said, I want to make something very clear at the beginning of training camp as we go in. There will be one person talking to Brett Favre. And then he pointed over to Steve Mariucci, and he says, it'll be that coach right there, and if anybody else is going to talk to him, it would be me. I don't want any of you talking to our quarterback. ever during practice. You want to address him at lunch or something and just be his friend you can, but you do not get to talk football with him. And during practice, he hears one voice. We don't want a quarterback looking left and looking right and trying to. And oftentimes you get into practice and you might have an offensive line coach or a head coach, and then all of a sudden the receiver coach decides he wants to chime in. And those are cultures that fail. They fail at coaching quarterbacks, and we pay very close attention to who's coaching the quarterback and what voice is he listening to. And when he makes a throw, when he makes a decision, or when he's looking for any kind of positive reinforcement or a correction, his head should go one direction. And that direction should go to the exact one voice that he's being coached by. And Robert and I enabled that for me as the quarterback coach, and here he was the offensive coordinator. And again, I said Lavelle was about as good as it got. And maybe that came from Doug Scoville and through Mike Holmgren. But those guys created that years ago, and it is a living, breathing culture today all the way through the NFL.
How much do you think that Aaron Roderick might change things in terms of the game plan? Because he was talking about with Jake Retzlaff coming up that, you could give him everything. He had been in the program for 2 years and had 15 games of playing experience, whatever it was, and so they felt confident that whatever they wanted to do, he could handle it. Well, now it's reversed. Whoever's going to be playing has never taken a snap in a live game for the Cougars. So do you think that changes things from the game planning and scheme perspective?
Yes. I think they'll have to, back off a little bit and give this guy an opportunity to truly settle in. Fall camp will say a lot about how this quarterback plays. I think one of the things that you need to do a good job of going into the game plan is make sure that the quarterback's living in that game plan, that he's participating in the game plan, that he's got his favorite plays that he feels most confident in third and medium situations and red zone situations, and that it's not your playbook, but it's our playbook, and that the quarterback is completely bought into and like I said, living and breathing within those concepts so that he can be successful. And it might be a shortened playbook, but that's okay as long as he can execute the plays.
Brandon, I've been referencing you as a former BYU quarterback and offensive coordinator. For people who followed you a long time and I wonder what you're doing, are you in the entrepreneurship space now? Are you doing something else? What are you up to?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but when I left BYU, my older brother Bryce had been partners with my dad in business. My dad's now almost 88 years old, so he had all but retired 12 years ago, and so he was looking for a business partner, and I ended up joining Bryce, and we have a few different businesses that we run together, and here in Utah, we people kind of know us for developing residential basketball hoops and pickleball nets called the Dominator. We've done that now for quite some time, and that's been a great blessing. That business has continued to grow, and then we got into the trailer hitch industry, and we now have a business called WaySafe. When we manufacture and develop different types of trailer hitches for that industry, and it's been a lot of fun. I can't believe it's been, 2012. So what? 13 years ago is when I last coached a football game. I'm out of coaching much longer than I was in coaching. So it's amazing how fast time goes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that move, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road. If they let us do this another 40 years.
You will. Okay. Keep it up, guys.
Say hello to Verl for me, okay?
I'll tell him hi. You got it.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Take care, guys.
There's Brandon Doman. DJ and PK proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Coming up next, JB Long, radio voice of the Los Angeles Rams on the NFC West. That's next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're joined now by JB Long, play-by-play voice for the Los Angeles Rams. JB, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitations, and it's good to be in good initials company.
Exactly. DJ, PK, and JB. Here we go. We've been doing a little division-by-division profile here going through the NFL. We're obviously not an NFL city here, but the NFL is big everywhere, and certainly people follow the Utes and the Cougars. And does Puka Nacua just blow everybody's mind in L.A.? Does he just come with an energy that just catches everybody off guard?
It's a good question, and it's a timely question. I just caught up with Puka after practice yesterday, and by caught up with, I mean I had to wait for about a half an hour for all of his adoring fans to finally relent and let him come over and hang out with us. As you guys probably know from following his career as a prep all the way through a collegiate and now a pro, the smile seldom leaves his face. I think he plays the game with a childlike joy, but with a grown man's intensity and violence, and it's a really unique combination. And given our sports culture and especially our football culture, it's no surprise that someone with his charisma and then also with his statistical profile burst onto the scene as a rookie, set all sorts of rookie records, and won a lot of you listening your fantasy football leagues, I'm sure. And as a result, his stardom has only grown and exceeded that of just here in Los Angeles. So, yes, I think he has become the face of the Los Angeles Rams. I think he's probably the Rams' biggest star since Todd Gurley, which is saying a lot. And it's crazy to think that he's where he is going into only year 3 and 24 years old.
We do a thing at the station where they rank the college players going, gives you some summer programming and something to talk about in a segment here and there. And going into his last year at BYU, I said, well, I'd rank him number 1. And there's no doubt in my mind. And he's that type of player. And, I'd heard from the BYU coaches and all. And plus, we saw him in high school, blah, blah, blah. Know the family, watch them play. And the thing about it is I just couldn't understand how he lasted until the 5th round. It blew me away then. It blows me away today. And maybe to the degree of the success that he's had in the NFL is a little surprising. But in my mind, the fact that he's having success is not a surprise.
Well, good on you. I hope you were just as good in your stock picks and you were in early on Apple and Google and Nvidia too, because you're probably closing in on retirement.
I am closing in on retirement, but I don't know anything about that stuff. I've watched 40 years of football, 40 years of college players.
What I love about the story that you just told and how it pertains to the Rams is, yes, they are ahead of their growth curve because they landed someone like Puka Nacua in the 5th round, and they should be congratulated for that. And yet they say it with such humility and almost like a bashfulness, because even though they were the one team out of 32 that drafted Puka Nacua, he was the 20th receiver taken in that draft, and he was the Rams' 3rd 5th round pick. So if they were as confident as you were, they tell themselves all the time, and they say publicly, they certainly would not have rolled the dice and waited that long to draft a generational star.
You say he's the face of the franchise. Normally that goes to a quarterback, especially if you have a veteran quarterback who has won a Super Bowl. Does Stafford not like the spotlight? Does he just kind of shy away from it? Or it's just Puka's charisma is just undeniable and cannot be stopped?
Yeah, well, first, I think there's room for more than one, and Sean McVay is certainly one, and there's plenty of others. Jared Verse, the Defensive Rookie of the Year. But I think I'm kind of classifying certain things, and you're right to tease that out. Matthew Stafford going into year 17, 37 years of age, right on the cusp of I believe one more good year should cement it. Yeah, QB1 is always going to be that guy, and Matthew Stafford has been the big man on campus since he was a prep too. Big-time recruit at Georgia, number 1 overall pick. So definitely he has that brand name recognition. But I'm speaking to the young audience that crowds the hedges and the fences at training camp and will wait for hours for a picture or an autograph from Puka Nacua. I think he's just captured the imagination of the next generation of Rams fans. And he also has this pop culture vibe. Because of who he is off the field, some of the crowds that he runs with, his love for LeBron James and the Lakers. I think just the imagination of Los Angeles, he has been able to capitalize in a different way, a unique way relative to the quarterback who made the confetti fall at SoFi Stadium a couple years ago.
What are the chances that Britton Covey makes a team, because he's another beloved local here?
Yeah, I'm happy to be ask that question today, because I think the odds are growing by the day. I continue to watch the way that they're using him in their offensive huddle and the groups that he's running with, the personnel packages, and we know what he's capable of on special teams. The other great thing about the way that McVay and the Rams run their operation is, Devontae Adams went through walkthrough yesterday. He's completely healthy. He's in great shape. But then he's in sneakers and a ball cap during, the first day of pads, and they're kind of just deloading him and giving him the Sunday day off followed by the Monday double up day to keep him fresh. So Covey and others capitalize on the rest days for Puka, on the rest days for a Devontae Adams. And so they're getting more than they typically would, I think, in other organizations. I'll be curious to see if he plays in the preseason and in what capacity, because if he continues to have good moments at receiver, I think there is room for Covey on this team as like a wide receiver 5 or 6 who brings special teams ability. That's probably why they targeted him in late veteran free agency.
Are the Rams the pick in the division? There are people who would say the Niners. Obviously, they had a ton of injuries in San Francisco last year.
Yeah.
If they catch a break there, do you believe in Seattle or Arizona? How do you handicap that division?
I think the NFC West is right there with the NFC North as probably one of the best divisions in the National Football League and the most challenging top to bottom. I don't think there's a break. I think it's 4 teams that have realistic playoff ambitions, and whoever doesn't make the playoffs out of that 4-team group is probably going to have some tough questions to answer next offseason. And of those 4, I think 2 have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. Certainly the Rams are one of them. And so long as, Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy and George Kittle and Kyle Shanahan are partnering together, I think the 49ers are very much still in their Super Bowl window. They had to make some hard decisions this offseason. I do think there can be an element of addition by subtraction in the National Football League, as ruthless as that is to live through. And then the other thing about San Francisco is when they have an off year, they really go to the bottom. The Rams have kind of had this steady measure of success. The 49ers have been right on the doorstep of a championship, or they've had a really bad season. And so what that means is they finished 4th last year and they play a 4th place schedule. So whereas the Rams have to play the Philadelphia Eagles, the Baltimore Ravens, the Detroit Lions as their crossover opponents, all of whom are legit championship contenders themselves, by comparison, the Niners get the Browns, they get the Giants, they get the Bears, and that's got to be worth something in the end in the standings. And I think that's why, in terms of like the betting markets in Las Vegas, the 49ers are the favorite, even though I think the Rams are the better roster top to bottom.
What's going on at running back with Kyren Williams and the contract and all that?
It's funny, as my barber gives me a hard time because he's always, trying to pin down the Rams running back situation for his fantasy football purposes. And he's completely given up on me. He said he's never going to take my advice anymore because, in the post-Todd Gurley universe, it's been really tough to delineate how carries are going to break down and why these backs that the Rams have drafted, like Blake Corum last year, just don't get early opportunities. Kyren Williams has had the monopoly on the backfield when he's been healthy. He's going into a contract year. I think it's a big moment for him. I know they trust him, but at the same time, they spent pretty good draft capital on Corum out of Michigan and then Jarquez Hunter this past year. And it's hard to imagine that if you're going to use those draft assets at that position, that you're not going to find a way to deploy more than one. Now, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth here. I'm not giving you a good answer. But when Sean McVay finally becomes a running back by committee coach, I'll call you back and let you know I've not seen it happen yet.
You've talked about hard questions being asked if things go wrong with some of these teams. With Arizona, they were like the first 3 years of Kyler Murray, 5 wins to 8 wins to 11 wins to a playoff berth. Everything seemed to be trending properly. And then 4 wins, 8 wins. Now, maybe that's a sign they're coming back and there were injuries and all that, but that's not much winning for 3 years. They have changed coaches, and maybe they'll change coaches again. Can you put your finger on what is wrong with them and what happened and why what was trending well got derailed?
Yeah, and no playoff success either. And that's where Kyler's getting paid like a franchise quarterback, and I think his skill set is one of a franchise quarterback. But if his results don't lead you to franchise quarterback things, then sooner or later you have to make a difficult decision, whether it's at that position, whether it's another change of leadership. And that's kind of what I mean in terms of it's got to be now for a team like the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're stacking blocks. I think their year-over-year improvement since they got this new regime in place has been solid. I like the way they addressed their defense this offseason. I think they're going to be a problem. I thought they were going to be good last year, and they were. They were on the front end of the schedule, another late season fade. But I'd be surprised if the Cardinals aren't right there in playoff contention come December and January this year. That being said, if they're not, Yeah, I think they have to take a real serious look in the mirror because they've cleaned up a lot of things organizationally. I think they're taking good strides. But if they can't get over the top of Seattle and San Francisco and Los Angeles, then they got to try another avenue.
McVay, I don't even think is 40, and he was very young when he got the job, and I think at 30, and had success, obviously. But then there had been in the last couple of years talk of retirement. I haven't heard much this year. Has that calmed down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think Sean's had the blessing and the privilege, and he's earned it, of kind of reinventing himself and finding the next chapter or chapters of his coaching career. Let's face it, most coaches don't get more than a year or two, and seldom do they get a second or a third opportunity. Sean, because of his rocket ship ascent, it's hard to believe that he is going into year 9, and you're correct to point out he's not yet 40 years old. You know, I do think he has the skill set to be a great broadcaster and will be an analyst at some point. But I also think he's found peace and an equilibrium as the head coach and the leader of this organization, be it through delegation and having the proper coordinators in place, being at ease with replacing the coaches that get picked off his tree year after year after year. Or even, you know, another way to say it would be, I thought there was probably a window where Sean's first coaching tenure was tied to the career of Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp and even Matthew Stafford. And so long as that nucleus was together, he probably couldn't walk away from it. Well, Aaron Donald retired and things are looking pretty good in the pass rush. Cooper Kupp is now a Seahawk and things are looking pretty good with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. And I'm a believer that I think Sean's tenure with the Rams will now continue beyond Matthew Stafford, whether that's next year or a couple of years from now. My guess is he's in this for a longer haul than maybe any of us would have expected just a few years back.
Curious where the Rams sit in the LA sports hierarchy now. I watch a Ram-Niner game and I see what looks like 40 or 50,000 people in red. I don't even know if that bothers them or if they just say, hey, thanks for the money. How does that all work?
Yeah, everyone's money is green, so that all cash is the same. And the more they can send the Niner fans home disappointed after collecting their cash, the better in terms of the long-term horizon here in Los Angeles. Look, this is an experiment somewhat unlike any other, right? To leave a professional city and the second largest city for a generation and then to come back and try to win those hearts over again. The Rams have done their level best with a ton of success, some just incredible community outreach, building the world's greatest sports and entertainment venue. But it's going to take time. It's going to take at least another generation before some of those Rams season ticket holders outnumber and outbid those from every other competing fan base that wants to come to LA and see their team play and see SoFi Stadium. Or let's face it, the LA is the ultimate melting pot in our country, and I love living here because of all the different cultures and all the different people domestically and abroad that come here to raise their family and to make their living. So I can't love and relish that and bemoan the fact that those people all have fandom, right? And so it's real easy for a Pittsburgh transplant to live and work here in Los Angeles and to pour his or her resources into one game worth of tickets and parking and concessions every few years, as opposed to the commitment that it requires of a Rams season ticket member to spend all those resources to be there week in and week out, so, you know, some 10, 12 Sundays per year.
When Matthew Stafford, he's 37, so he's coming to an end. Quarterbacks can play longer. We've seen that. But when he retires, what is his wife going to do to keep her name in the public?
I got nothing for you there.
Wise answer by you.
Yeah.
It's a good answer.
Kelly and their daughters have been wonderful to have around. They really support Matthew in a unique and wonderful way. They have also really invested in this community. One of the most impressive things I've seen them do, Kelly specifically, is when the Fires knocked the Rams out of Los Angeles last year for their wild card game against the Minnesota Vikings. That game was played in Glendale, Arizona. Kelly rallied the community and paid for the transportation. There were numerous buses taken from LA to Arizona so that the Rams fans could be there and to support. And I think that's one of the memories I'll cherish most from my first decade with this organization. And without her efforts, I don't think it would have felt like a home game.
How about that high school battery mates of Stafford behind the plate and Clayton Kershaw on the mound?
it really is something, right? And I think that speaks to just what an athlete Matthew is. He's a good tennis player too, from what I understand. He's a pretty good stick on the golf course. Like I said, he's the man. He's been that guy since high school, but he wears it really well. He's easy to be around. He's got this wry sense of humor that's absolutely hilarious. And for someone as accomplished, someone with his earnings, someone with his resume, he doesn't hit you over the head with it. He's a great teammate. I know his offensive line and his teammates will go to bat for him any day.
JB, we appreciate the time. Thanks for bringing the initials and bringing all the knowledge.
Hey, anytime. Have a good rest of your show and preview throughout the NFL. Thanks for your interest, even from afar. I know we got a bunch of great NFL and especially Rams fans in the Salt Lake area, especially because of Covey and Puka.
Yeah, well, we've certainly seen a lot of Laker fans at Jazz Laker games, and we saw a lot of USC fans at USC Utah games. So if the Rams ever make it up this way, there's probably Ram fans waiting for you, I'm sure.
Hey, we just did training camp in Maui. Maybe we'll come to Rice Eccles or something soon.
I bet the team votes for Maui again.
See you guys.
There's JB Long, voice of the Rams. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.